of BWARP, the Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program, presented by the Los Angeles Urban League in association with Parkside Economic Development Corporation. I'm Reverend Gerald, President and CEO of Parkside Economic Development Corporation. And all this month, we're going to be talking about ways to make more money, and more money. One of the good things the pandemic taught us was that we must be able to pivot when that steady job becomes a shaky situation. To attain, retain, and sustain our wealth, it requires us to augment, supplement, and complement our primary source of income. Working 25 years for one company and retiring is slowly but surely becoming a thing of the past. We must be creative in our approach to wealth building. Take full advantage of the technology that allows us to do big business virtually. Every Thursday this month, we'll plant some seeds that can grow into wealth-building trees of success. We're going to be talking about accessory dwelling units that's called ADUs and Airbnbs, succeeding with e-commerce, the gig economy, and rewirement for personal success. Tonight's presentations on ADUs and Airbnbs features Monica Higgins, construction and remodeling specialist, and Rosalind Gale, Airbnb superhost. You're going to have questions that are going to pop up during the presentations, so we want you to put them in the chat, and our virtual producer, Jacinda Moten, will make sure you get an answer during the Q&A portion of our program. Our first presentation this evening is Get Financial Breathing Room with Short-Term Rentals by five-star superhost Rosalind Gale. Ms. Gale has over 44 years experience in making people all over the world and from every walk of life feel welcome, safe, comfortable, and important. As a decorated purser and flight attendant, she has given international travelers more than expected. She uses her keen sensibility to accommodate different cultures into becoming a five-star rated Airbnb host. Her people skills and attention to detail has turned an unused private space into thousands of dollars of incremental income. Rosalind, thank you for sharing with our BWAP audience tonight. It's your turn to let us know what's going on with Airbnb.
All right, thank you for having me. First of all, I want to express how grateful I am to have an opportunity just to share my experience and to share this presentation with Monica Higgins, who I'm excited to learn about how I can possibly even expand my little backyard empire. So I'm privileged to be here. But my topic is short-term rentals. I decided to utilize a space in our house that we once were empty nesters, and then we ended up, like most people of a certain age, caring for elders in this room. When that period of our life passed, we were sitting looking at this actually a very nice bedroom suite. We decided to make some cosmetic changes. It did not cost us very much. It included an outside exit, some paint, sprucing up, polishing of the floors. I listed this property with one of the websites. My preference was Airbnb, and we booked up immediately and stay booked up. It's been a very successful venture for us, and I just want to share my experience with you. So let's get started. Okay, nothing's happening. There we go. First of all, as you can see, there are a number of rental platforms. This is just a few of the many, many platforms that you can utilize. You don't just have to use one. You can use many. You can merge your calendar so that there's no double booking. But I just wanted to give you an idea of a few of the platforms. I have used several. Right now, I'm a host on Airbnb. As you can see, there are some things to consider if you're deciding to utilize a space within your home, or if you have an existing ADU, you want to understand what the restrictions are in your city and county. You have to thoroughly review that, because some cities restrict how many days a year you can use it. Some have no restrictions. that some require that you purchase a license, and some even have limits to how many guests you can have within, if it is within your home, in a room. You want to also consider the area of the dwelling that you'll be renting. And then you want to review the rental platform, how they charge you as a host. It could be a percentage, it could be a flat fee per guest. So you want to look into all those things, do your homework. You have a lot of options as well, and a lot of filters that you can utilize to help you be the best you can be with your space. You want to make the right choice. Use those filters to best suit your intention. Once you decide of the line of short-term rental, the platform that you want to use, review and experiment. Make sure you're using all the options that are available to you. Some of the options that you might not think about, you learn as you go along, but are very important is how many guests you restrict, how many rooms, what area of the house are they allowed to enter? Do you have handicap accessibility? You allow smokers? How many days can they stay, minimum and maximum? Do you allow pets? And then you can offer, also there are things called experiences. Some people, or make extra money, they offer a cooking class or a tour or a walk around the neighborhood. There are a lot of ways you can even enhance the rental process as well, if you want to go that far. If you're, say you're not employed and you really want to get involved in this, you can even further your options. You want to book them and you want to keep them. The best way to start off and get good bookings is to have an excellent presentation of your property. You want to take good pictures. You want to use plenty of light, have your angles properly presented. You can hire a professional photographer. Almost every platform has an area for people that begin to host that they can hire. But I've seen some iPhones take awesome pictures. So that's kind of up to you. But I also would emphasize that you want to take all views, not just one picture, and also include the area or neighborhood that you're living in. You want to make it as interesting and as inviting as possible. You might consider enhancing the amenities that you offer. Some basic amenities include plenty of towels and linens, basic soaps, just things to get them started, what they would expect basically at a hotel. But the #1 comment that shows up in my reviews is how clean the unit is. In this time of COVID and other issues, you want to really make sure the place is super sanitized. And that is something that most guests really look for when in reviews. They comment a lot, the place was super clean, I loved it. That's really, really important. You can expand on a lot of these things. For instance, I offer robes, slippers, coffee, tea makers, bottled water. I do not have a kitchen in my suite. I don't allow cooking, but I do have a microwave and a refrigerator. So you determine what your criteria is going to be. In addition to the little things that I've listed here that make a difference, I want to let you know that you can achieve a certain status. I'm emphasizing how important good reviews are. You can achieve certain status within every single platform with good reviews. Good reviews do a lot of things. They shoot you in the algorithm to the top of the list. So when somebody looks for a place, you're going to be the first thing that shows because you have good reviews. They also afford you a individual helpline, customer service, and there's a insignia or a connotation that appears with your listing. With VRBO, it's called premium. With Airbnb, it's called superhost. People look for those things and they really do enhance your booking. But it's also very important to be honest about what you offer. If you don't have it, don't offer it. Because that will result in bad reviews. You want to, be very honest about what you're offering, just like you want your guests to be honest about who they are and why they're coming. You want to be available for requests or questions. You want to introduce yourself. It sets a tone that makes you comfortable as a host and makes them comfortable as a guest. These are some examples of what you can rent out. They range from a simple basic room to what Monica's going to discuss with you, an accessory dwelling unit. A mini suite just as happens to be one of the units that I rent, to an entire apartment. It's really up to you and where you want to go and how you want to manage it. I want to talk just for a few minutes about payment and financial responsibilities. You're going to get a 1099. It's not free money. You do have to pay taxes on it. Most hosts use automatic deposit. You're going to be required with every single platform to put some type of monetary way that the money can be deposited. There is no exchange of dollars or money between you and your guests. It's for your safety and for theirs. There are mechanisms for refunds if it doesn't work out, and for extensions of stay payment as well. And of course, you want to keep all receipts and log all your expenses, but a lot of them do the work for you. This is an example of what a financial report that you can pull up from a number of the platforms that you can use. They really make it very easy for you to track your earnings from month to month, and also how many nights you're booked, your occupancy rate, what you're charging, what your fees are. Everything is there listed for you. All you have to do is print it out and present it to your tax guy, basically. Again, we talked about reviews. Be honest about what you offer. Be very specific about restrictions or house rules. This is very important, and I had to learn as I go along. On each platform, there are spaces where things to know or house rules. I would present it more than once, 2 or 3 times within every listing. I put what my rules are, and when they check in, there's a big picture frame with rules. You don't want any miscommunication, and you don't want a guest coming to you saying, I didn't know. So it's very important to be open and honest, and communicate is very important. Also regarding pricing, I think it's very important to be competitive. Each platform offers an algorithm that will tell you what is the pricing in your area. They tend to be a little low, but you can do your own research and see what comparable dwellings are charging in your area. I tend, as my strategy, to price higher than the algorithm, but lower than most people. That way I stay booked up. I have a strategy of under promising and over producing, basically. And it keeps us booked up, and it results in high reviews. Once you begin, you'll find your footing. Most platforms have a help section. They have customer support. As I said, I set a moderate expectation, and then I overachieve. That's kind of really it. That's all I have. I'm sure there'll be questions, but I'm available to answer questions. I think that this is something that helped us. It can help a lot of people. If you have a small space, you can't put thousands of dollars into it, and you want to try something that can either supplement your income, even help with your mortgage, so you can stay in your home. This could be your solution. So I'm privileged to be able to offer this as an idea that might inspire some people to make some extra income. And that's kind of all I have. That was quick, huh?
Thank you so much, Rosalind. That was a lot of information, and I hope everybody was taking notes so they can are putting questions in the chat that we can address a little later on in the evening. Our next presenter is Monica D. Higgins, construction and remodeling specialist, and she's going to talk about what the ADU. Transforming spaces to maximize comfort and generate income has literally been Monica's life's work. Growing up, Monica helped her parents manage and renovate distressed income properties. She saw firsthand what a transformation, what a positive impact it has when you update a facility and add the upgrades that helps residents live in a more comfortable situation or add income to their situation. Monica helps people find new homes as a licensed real estate agent before she founded Renovation Partners, a construction management firm. She combines decades of experience with all the detailed aspects of remodeling projects to help homeowners transform their house into a home or a multi-use residence. Monica, welcome to BWART.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. I am looking at, Rosalind is a super host. I think I'm going to have to book an Airbnb with her. So let me share my screen. And we can talk about ADUs. All right, is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So we're talking about what the ADU, like what are these things? If you're a homeowner, you are actually sitting on untapped potential. And that untapped potential happens to be in your backyard. So if you happen to have a garage as an example, you are turning this junk that you're not monetizing into something like this, into an income earning asset. But what are ADUs? The official term is called accessory dwelling unit. It's a residential unit that can be added to a lot with a single or a multi-family home. And the key word is accessory. So it's accessory to the main house. So you're not able to sell it separately from the house. Now, why do you think most people want to build ADUs? I'd like to see some people put in the chat, like, why do you think most people build ADUs? Let's see what you have to say. Oops, I don't want to share the secrets. We don't have anybody that knows or has an idea why people build ADUs? All right, no problem. I have spoken with, oh, here they come. I see them coming in. All right, let me see if I can see them. Casual side hustle for tax purposes. Set it up as a company for the funds to flow through, okay. Additional income or for guest housing. Income, guest quarters, let's see here. Yvonne, I hear you. Get kids out the house. You want them close, but not too close. That's I've heard that quite a bit. Well, let's take a look. Over the last 5 years, I have actually spoken to a little over 400 homeowners. And these are the reasons why. So I have yet to meet a homeowner that does not want to increase their property value. So everybody wants that. So that's kind of a given. The number 2 reason is that they want to generate passive income. They want to be able to generate income without having to trade time for dollars. So whether it's an Airbnb, so that's more work than having a tenant, but you have passive income coming in. You're not physically doing the work to earn it. Getting back to having a space for your kids, with COVID, a lot of families decided to rethink having multi-generational living. So you can have your parents or your kids close, but not too close. And then so many of us were working from home, so we have a separate place to work from. So those would be like the top 4 reasons why people build ADUs. Now, it's not really about the money. When I talk with homeowners, it's not really about the money. It's about what you can do with the money. So in the chat, somebody mentioned, let's see, for tax purposes as a side hustle, setting it up as a company. But why do you think, what are some of the whys? Other than the money, like it's the why, what are they going to do with the money? Why do you think homeowners would actually build an ADU and generate that passive income? If you can put your answers in the chat, let's see what you're thinking. So again, it's a given if somebody wants to do this for income, because that's why we're here today. But why? What's the reason behind? What are they going to do with the money? What do you think? All right, well, let's take a look. So for a lot of homeowners, it's about paying off debt. So you can use the extra money to pay off your balances. For those that are retired, or you're going to be retired within the next 5 or 10 years, one of the critical things people are concerned about is whether or not you're going to outlive your assets. So by providing an additional source of income that allows you, it's like it helps ensure that you have enough money to keep going. Basically, you can live the rest of your life on your own terms. For others, it's about diversifying their portfolio. So whether they're going to invest in other income properties, I actually have a client that was her goal. So she built it to generate some additional cash flow to help her invest in other properties. Or you might be bumping up your 401k as an example, or increasing your savings, or some other way to diversify your investment portfolio. And then we had talked about the multi-generational family. So you're having your families close and they're secure and you're helping them. For a lot of, let's just say that you have adult children, and your adult children, because real estate prices are so high, they're not able to afford the neighborhoods that they grew up in. But by having the ADU, I actually have a client that lives in Ladera Heights, and her daughter works, but was also going to grad school, and she was going to get an apartment with a roommate. And when her mother saw what the rents were in Inglewood for a 2-bedroom apartment, she's like, oh my God, that's like so much money. Why don't we build the ADU and you pay for it? Basically, the mother would get the mortgage and the daughter would pay the rent, which would be below what the rent would have been in Inglewood, but she's still making money and the daughter's going to have a place to stay. So again, those are some of the reasons why people build them. So ADUs actually come in 6 flavors. So you can have a detached ADU. So you have your home and then you build something separate from your existing home. Or if you have a multifamily building, you build it separate from that. Or you can build it attached to the main primary residence or to the multifamily. If you have a basement or you have an attic, you can actually convert the interior space, because it's already within the home, into an ADU. And those are actually called junior ADUs, because typically it's within the interior of the existing home. It has to have its own entrance. It can share a bathroom with the rest of the house, but I always recommend that you give people their own restroom. And it doesn't have to have a full-size kitchen, but it does need to have a kitchenette. Now, if you use your garage for storage or you use it for cars, you can actually build on top of the garage, or you can actually build a garage conversion. And if we're looking at permit data for the city of Los Angeles as an example, usually conversions of existing structures are the most common permits, because the cost to convert a garage is typically less than building a brand new structure, whether you're doing a detached, attached, or above the garage. And the reason that is because you already have the structure, you already have the framing, you have a foundation, though it probably needs to be upgraded, because when you have a foundation for garage, the foundation was built for garage. It wasn't built to meet code to have somebody live there. So you'll have to update that. And you obviously would have electricity running already to the garage. You most likely wouldn't have, unless you already have a bathroom in the garage, you wouldn't have a sewer connection. So that would probably be one of the biggest expenses of doing a garage conversion. But again, that's why people typically look at doing a garage conversion. However, I always ask my clients a couple of questions about that, because if you're doing it to generate passive income, most homeowners want to maximize the amount that they can get. So think about this. A 2-car garage is about 400 square feet. Now, I've seen people do 1-bedrooms, but when it comes to my clients, I typically don't recommend doing a 1-bedroom, because the flow of the space is really important, particularly if somebody's going to be doing it as a long-term residence versus a short-term rental. So you want to think about, does that help you meet your long-term goals? Because sometimes, yes, it does cost more to do a detached ADU as an example, but if you can build it bigger, does it make more sense in terms of the rental income? So let me just give you an example. I have a client that's probably about a mile from SoFi Stadium. And in crunching the numbers for her at the time that we did this analysis for her, a studio was X number of dollars per month. I'm just going to pick a number. This is not the number. I'm just going to, just for example, let's just say that she could get $2,000 a month for a studio. And then if she built a 1-bedroom, made a larger structure, whether that was adding onto her garage to make it bigger in order to convert it into an ADU, or build a larger structure, having a 1-bedroom was like $700 or more per month income for her. So at the time, the difference in she wasn't doing a conversion. She was actually either going to build on top of the garage or build next to it. So when we ran the numbers, it actually made more sense for her to actually build the 1-bedroom, because long-term rents typically appreciate over time. So she's actually starting at a higher number. And then every year when she increases her rents, she'll be able to do that. Keep the rents, optimize the rents. So again, it's all about what your why is. I go back to, why do you want to build the ADU? What are you going to do with the money? So here are a couple examples. So this is an example of a detached ADU. Let me just point out a few things that's nice about it. One is that it has a high roof line. When you have a small structure, you don't want it to feel claustrophobic. So if you have a high roof line, that means you can have vaulted ceilings potentially, which means the space looks much larger. And we happen to live in Southern California, so we can take advantage of this whole indoor-outdoor lifestyle. So by having these windows here, the sliding glass door that lets more light in, you have a little patio area. So that's some of the benefits of this particular one. Here is an example of a garage conversion. And again, if we're thinking about a 400 square foot garage that you're converting to an ADU, 400 square feet is small. So you can extend the look and feel of the garage by having a deck. So again, because we live in Southern California, we can do this whole indoor-outdoor lifestyle, but by having this additional space, it makes it feel much larger. And the great thing about this is that the entire front is all glass. So again, it makes it appear much larger because you have light coming in and you don't have a solid wall. Another thing you can do is actually build the ADU on top of the garage. So that's another opportunity for you. And then whatever you do, please don't take your existing shed and try to convert it into an ADU for numerous reasons. First of all, tough sheds or things like them were not designed to be a space for somebody to live in. Therefore, they're not going to meet building code requirements. The other thing is, heaven forbid that you have an electrical fire. It's not permitted, doesn't meet code. Your insurance company is not going to pay the claim. And you potentially set yourself up for a lawsuit by the tenant. So I'm always about, if you're going to do it right. So here are 3 questions that you need to ask yourself. Because you're really thinking about, well, can I build an ADU? And the answer is yes, because when the laws changed in 2020, the state of California and the city of LA and other jurisdictions actually lifted restrictions to make it easier for you to build them legally. Over the years, people were building them illegally, but because of the demand for housing, we have too many people and not enough housing. And more importantly, we have too many people and not enough affordable housing. The state implemented these laws for ADUs to make it legally, make it easier for people to do it legally. So the first thing you have to ask is, do you own a single family residence or do you own a multifamily residence? If you said yes, move on to the next question. Do you have either one, extra space in your backyard, or do you have a garage in your backyard that you want to convert? Or do you have a room in your home or space in your home that you want to convert into a unit with its own entrance? Okay, so you need to answer yes to one of those questions. And then you need to answer yes to, let me get my, the third question. Sorry, is your property located within a half mile of public transit? Or do you have room for additional parking, room and space for additional parking? If you live within a half mile of public transit, you're not required to provide parking for the ADU. However, if you don't live within a half mile of public transit, you have to have enough space for parking for the ADU. So that could be just making sure you have enough space in the driveway, or at a minimum. Now, most places in the city of Los Angeles are within a half mile in public transit. I've only had one project that I worked on where it was literally maybe less than 100 feet beyond the half mile of public transit, which meant that they had to provide additional parking for the ADU. So what are the benefits of building an ADU? Well, first of all, you are directly investing in your future. So you're investing in building the ADU, and the cost of building the ADU is going to be less than the cost if you were going to buy another property. If you looked at it on a dollar per square foot basis, yes, construction costs are high, but they're still lower than if you were going to buy a new place per square foot. Once you have a certificate of completion and you get somebody in there, you immediately have passive income. And again, you're not trading time for dollars. You make money from current cash flow. So the goal is you should be able to price your rental at a number that's more than your expenses on it. So your expenses would be the mortgage payment just for the ADU. So if you're refinancing your home, as an example, I just want you to consider the amount that you're refinancing just for the ADU, not the entire refinance, just for your project. You're going to have, again, the rent that you get, but you also need to think about your expenses. So you're going to have insurance, you're going to have, the marketing of putting the unit for rent. If you decide that you want to have a property manager or not, so the property manager can play bad cop and you can be good cop. So you need to think about other expenses that need to be required, but the goal is to make sure that you have positive cash flow. And then you immediately make money from adding the ADU and the future appreciation of your property. So according to a UC Irvine study that was done a couple of years ago, when you're building an ADU, you can increase the value of your property, depending on the neighborhood, up to 50% of the current value. So the homeowner that I mentioned that was at the time when she actually got a renovation loan, which I'll talk about in a minute. But at the time that she did that, her property, she didn't have enough equity to do the project, to pull equity out. But with a renovation loan, she was actually able to get a loan based on the value of her property after the ADU was built. And when that appraisal was done, the appraiser appraised her property based on the value of the ADU to be 35% higher with the ADU. And just think about how much property has appreciated over the time, particularly during the pandemic. I mean, things have just really skyrocketed. So think about that as well. And then you have a hedge against inflation because, we're experiencing that right now because rents rise. Historically, rents rise over a period of time. So if inflation goes up, your rents are still going to rise over a period of time. And you get bond-like security, but with appreciation. Typically, if you're investing in bonds, the returns are very low as compared to other types of investments, but you get the security because it's going to give you a return. It's just going to be low. But here, you're getting that type of security with the appreciation of the rental in terms of the rental income, but also in regards to the value of your home because you've built the value of the property because you built the ADU. And there you have it. What the ADU?
Thank you, Monica, for their presentation on what the ADU. So now I'm going to turn it over to Jacinda. We'll make sure you get your questions answered. Jacinda?
All righty. We will now begin the Q&A portion of the program. Let me spotlight our lovely speakers. All righty. So for anyone that has questions, please put them in the chat and I will address them one by one. Okay. Here's a question for you, Monica, about funding the ADU.
Okay. Let's see, there's probably 6 different ways to fund them. Plus there are some grant opportunities for those that are in the lower income bracket. So let me find my notes forgot the name of the organization at the top of my head for the grant opportunity. Keep in mind that the grant is not it's not enough to cover the entire cost of building an ADU. So let's make that upfront. But in terms of, I would say the 3 most popular ways that homeowners finance ADUs, either you're going to do a cash out refinance, you are going to do a home equity loan, or you're going to do a home equity line of credit. I would say that those are the 3 most popular ways. However, there's other ways to finance it. So maybe you have a huge amount of savings that can cover it. So personal finances. Or I mentioned a renovation or construction loan. So if you don't have enough equity, it would be a loan based on the after ADU value. And the appraiser would come out, look at, well, the appraiser has to look at the plan. So you would have already invested working with an architect and a structural engineer to get it done. But then they would look at that, look at a proposal from a contractor to see what that would be, do their analysis to determine how much they would be willing to loan you above the existing value of the home. You could also consider, it's called shared appreciation financing. So these are companies that will invest in your property. You have no payments, no interest, but you got to be mindful that you're giving up some of your equity in order for that benefit of having no payment or no interest. So if you're going to look at that, you want to make sure that you're looking at it very carefully. It may be, if you only plan to be in the property for maybe 10 years, that might be a good something. But if you're planning on staying in 30 years, because they're going to expect to get their money back within 10 or 15 years, maybe you want to rethink that, because it would be a balloon payment in most instances. Balloon payment meaning that when it's due, they want the whole shebang. They don't want installment payments. Regarding the grant, let me look up, I just at the top of my head, I cannot think of the name of the organization. So I'm going to look that up real quick and I can put the link in the chat. Let's see here. Okay. So the program is called Cal HFA. And let me put this in the chat real quick. I'll put it, you send it so you can see it. So the program is called Cal HFA. And the program is for you have to be a homeowner with low or moderate income, and there's certain guidelines in terms of what that is. And then I'm trying to look at what the amount is currently for the grant. Last time I looked, it was maybe $50,000. Let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Oh, it's $40,000 maximum per family is what this is showing. Okay. So it's going to reimburse you. So you still have to come up with money out of pocket, but it's going to reimburse you for pre-development and non-recurring closing costs for the loan. So pre-development costs would be the cost of an architect, structural engineer. If you go through the city or county to get permits, that's not free. So you got to cover those fees. So architectural designs, permits, soils tests, depending on if it's required. There's impact fees. If you build an ADU above a certain size, then there's certain fees that kick in. A property survey, meaning the city or county wants to know the exact property lines, which may not be what you see on a plot map from the assessor's office. So that's really important because that determines how far from the property line you can build, because there's certain requirements for that. And energy reports, that has to do with, we have a green building code here in California. So we just have to make sure that the ADU meets those requirements. So again, it's $40,000 maximum per family, but it's to reimburse you, which means you would have to come out of pocket and then get reimbursed for those things.
Nice, nice. So there's programs out there that will definitely assist.
Mhm.
Nice. All righty. Our next question is, where do most Airbnb users come from, local or international?
It kind of depends on the time of the year, but I would say almost 80% of the guests that I host are from other countries. I have a high percentage of guests from Europe, and they seem to be well-traveled. Usually when Europeans go on vacation or holiday, they don't just go one place. They'll continue on to Vegas or up the coast or over to Hawaii. They seem to be very adaptable to the Airbnb lifestyle. I really welcome all guests, but I have a high percentage that are from Europe.
Nice, nice. Our next question is, what is the typical cost of a garage conversion?
Okay, so let's get rid of the T word, typical. Only because construction costs have escalated a lot because of supply chain issues because of COVID. I'm going to recommend, this isn't for garage conversion, but I'm going to show you a site that I use with my clients, because when people tell me what the number, when I tell them what the numbers are, they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, it's not me talking, this is data talking. So I'm going to show you a site that I go to when I have initial conversations with homeowners, because what happens is you're watching HGTV. I get it. It looks great. The people are in Waco, Texas. You can buy a house for 150,000, 200,000 and remodel the whole house for like maybe 75 to 100. But the reality is that's not the LA market. So we have to see what the LA market is bearing. And this, what I'm going to show you, use it as a guide. It is not the gospel in terms of what the prices are, because prices are changing daily. I mean, when a contractor actually goes out to get bidding, the suppliers, the vendors are putting, you know, if they get a price today, they're putting a time limit on what that's good for. So it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, but it's not going to be you waiting for 6 months to get something done. So let me just preface that. So let me share my screen real quick. I'm going to show you a site that I find is valuable, but don't look at the dollar figures as the end all, because it's not always correct. But it gives you a ballpark figure, just so you can kind of start thinking about it. So I'm going to share my screen again. And this site is called Symbium. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, I just put in this, I grew up at this address in Inglewood, so I just put that address in there. So this is called Symbium. I put in the address off the home page, and then I go to sketch. This is not for garage conversion, but we'll see what the number says, and I will probably deduct for the garage a certain percentage so you can get an idea. So let's do 400 square feet as an example. Okay, let's just do, because that's the average 2-car garage. Okay, I'm not going to play with it. Let's pretend it's 405. So I can tell you right now, then brand new construction for site built between 127 and 149 is very low given today's construction costs. Because I recently, the ADU that I showed you in the initial slides, that was 522 square feet. So not that much bigger. So if I did 522 as an example. Okay. I can tell you that the cost far exceeded what is showing here. So that's why I'm saying don't rely on this as your guide. I think it's helpful to give you some context. And if you're doing a garage conversion and assuming that site conditions are perfect, then I would deduct maybe 30% from that, what the cost of a detached unit would be, because you already have the framing and if the foundation doesn't need to be upgraded. But again, everyone's home and site conditions is different. That's why it's important to know what you can do on your lot. What are the conditions on your lot? But I find this helpful because most people, when they think about a garage conversion, I've had people say, oh, yeah, we're thinking maybe $20,000. That's not going to happen.
Okay. And Monica, that's a good resource for people to use. I know there's other questions about like a 1-bedroom, 1-bath. They can use that resource as well.
No, actually, are they looking at it from a rental perspective? Like the difference between,
Just
I
to know
can show another resource that I use for that. Let me go to,
or to know the average price of an ADU.
oh, well, okay, so construction costs are, we're looking at, so I hear a lot of people talking about dollar per square foot. What I don't like about that particular approach is you need to know what's going into the dollar per square foot. So for example, you could have a 800 square foot ADU. It could be a 2-bedroom and 2 baths, or it could be a 1-bedroom and 1 bath. It's just larger, but because the 2-bedroom is going to be more expensive to build because you have more plumbing, you have another bathroom, you have another bedroom, even though it's the same square footage. I think in regards to, so let's throw out the dollar per square foot number because it's not accurate. And that dollar per square foot number does not take in consideration your site conditions. So for example, if there's a lot of dirt that has to be excavated to do the foundation, it doesn't take that into consideration, just as an example.
Okay. All righty. Our next question is, what is the average Airbnb stay in your experience?
Well, you can regulate that. Every platform has where you filters, and you can put a minimum and a maximum. I had to learn from experience. They must stay 5 days with me because, as Monica said, it's a little bit of work. I don't want to be going in and out cleaning. And you got to make it worth your time. So I have a minimum of 5 days and a maximum of 2 weeks. Most people stay between 8 and 12 days with me. And, you can offer if you want to come in and tidy or make sure they have plenty of towels, however you want to approach it. But most of my visitors are between, I would say, 8 and 12 days, which I'm very comfortable with. It allows me breathing room, and I usually block off days in between each visitor so that I have ample time to either have a housekeeper come in and clean, or I clean, and make sure that it is ready and inviting for the next guest. So you can control that, put parameters, days, spaces in between, and how long they can stay. But I like to have a visitor stay between 8 and 12 days.
Okay. Our next question.
I had no trouble getting, I stayed completely booked up. I actually have to block off days to get a breather. It's very popular right now.
Nice. Our next question is, how do you find a good, honest contractor?
Oh, great question. So let me walk you through how most people find a contractor, or let me back up. Nobody has trouble finding a contractor. You've got Angie's List, you've got House. I mean, there's plenty of resources. It's a matter of when you find someone, how do you screen them to determine whether they are going to be a good fit for you? So most homeowners, who are you? Are you licensed, and how much is it going to cost me? Those are just the tip of the iceberg questions that you should be asking. You need to really dig down into questions that are behavioral. So for example, I like to ask questions about how they run their business, for example, questions related to, if things aren't going well, everybody's happy, but when things do not go according to plan, because I can assure you, even though you plan a project properly, there's going to be something that comes up and it's going to have to be handled. So how do they handle that, and have them give you an example of that? Yeah, you ask for references, but let's be honest, who's going to give you the name of a client that had a bad experience with them? So you can ask for references, but just know that they're going to not give you somebody that's going to say something bad about them. I think questions about how they would, if they're going to give you a bid, how they would prepare the bid, because that's important of how they think about it. I was surprised to learn when I first got into construction industry that the testing has nothing to do with estimating and scheduling. And that is really the crux of the construction business, is the estimating and the scheduling. So you want to know how they think about putting together a proposal for you. So if they're looking at $1 per square foot approach, I would not think that they are going to be the right fit, at least not for me anyway. If you think about other questions for them, well, you definitely want to have someone that has done this type of project. So for example, yes, the person may be a contractor, but they focus on kitchen remodels. That's just working in interior work. If you're building a brand new detached ADU, that is a different skill set in terms of the crew to build something from scratch. So you want to make sure they have experience with your type of project. In terms of other questions I would ask, I'm going to plug my book, Remodel Success. I have a whole chapter about speed dating contractors that has probably 30 or 40 questions that you should be asking them. So again, it's called Remodel Success, Home Remodeling Done Right, on time and on budget. It's available on Amazon.
Great advice, great advice. Our next question is, for ADUs, will the main house and the garage conversion be separate or both dwellings?
Well, if you're doing a garage conversion, you could have a garage that's attached to your home. So in that instance, your garage conversion would be attached to your main house. But if the garage conversion is separate from the house, then it would be considered a detached garage conversion. I hope I'm answering that question, or I understood it correctly.
Okay. Another question is, what is your rental perspective for an ADU?
So I'm going to show you a source that I like to go to because I'm all about using data. Let me show a site that I use with my clients. It's Rentometer or rentometer.com, depending on how you pronounce it. And let me just log into my account. Okay, oops. Let me go to my other screen here real quick. Okay, right. So, I mean, if you intend to have, like, some people don't want to market the property themselves. So maybe you have a realtor that specializes in leases to market it for you, and you pay them a commission for getting a tenant. So that person would do, just like when you sell your home, they do a comparative market analysis of what homes are selling for. They could also do a comparative market analysis of what similar sizes and conditions of units or rentals are renting for. But let me share my screen here. So I like to go to, oops. So the site is called Rentometer or rentometer.com, tomatoes, depending on how you pronounce it. And let's put in the address that I had on the Symbian site. So I had the address that I grew up at, my childhood residence in Inglewood. And let's just say we're looking at a 1-bedroom versus a studio. So I'm going to do 1 bedroom and 1 bath only. And it's going to give me the average rental, So right now, according to Rentometer, it is roughly, the average is roughly $1,600 a month. But you can see people are actually getting more money, and real estate's all about location. But the other thing is, as Rosalind mentioned, it's like how you present it is really important. I'm going to give you a tip about that too, because that's really important. What amenities are you putting in your rental? So for example, if I was going to build an ADU, I would make sure I put a laundry, washer, and dryer in the unit, because nobody wants to go to the laundromat, and people would be willing to pay a little extra to have it there, that convenience. Just one example. So we're going to change it to a studio. So we're at average of 1661, and we change it to a studio, still having 1 bathroom. And we're looking at $13.79 a month. Okay. on average. And you can, you see where these units are or where these rentals are. And then there's another, if you have a paid subscription, which I do, I look at the pro report because it's going to give me the exact addresses of the properties that are in the comps here. So apartments versus condos, okay? Or whether they're a house. So you have to look at those things. So a detached ADU really is like a house versus a condo or an apartment because they have their own space. There's no common walls. If you set it up right, you can set it up so they have their own private yard. So it's more like a house. All these little things, ka-ching, 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 means that you're adding more value to the ADU, more amenities. Therefore, you should be able to charge higher prices. But those are things to consider.
Yes, so everyone make sure you write that website down.
Yes, go to, they have you can do a free trial. I think it's for 7 days.
Okay.
Rentometer or rentometer.com.
All righty. Our next question is, Monica, do you provide consultations? Airbnb consultations? I mean, I'm
no, I'm not Airbnb.
no.
That's
AD.
Rosalind.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Well, do you provide consultations? No? Monica?
Who are you referring to? I'm sorry, for
Monica.
Airbnb or for the
I'm
contact?
sorry. Monica, I'm
Monica.
sorry.
Oh, for 30-minute call, sure, you can. Usually I do them on Sunday evenings. I can put the link to the chat, sorry, the link in the chat. I usually do them on Sunday evenings.
All right.
Want to pick my brain for 30 minutes for free? Sure.
Our next question is, where can one find a good and reasonable property management company?
Well, first you have to define what you consider good, like whether you're hiring a contractor or a property management company, you need to determine what criteria makes them good for you. Okay, so what criteria makes that property management company good for you? And then if you happen to know somebody that actually has rental property, that can refer you to someone that they would recommend. Of course, there's, you can Google it and, there's reviews on site. But you have to figure out what's considered good for you. And then as you're interviewing those companies, make sure they align with what you're looking for. Now, in terms of reasonable, I mean, a property management company is going to get a cut of the rents. I mean, that's just what it is. Some of them may charge more than others because they provide more value. So again, it goes back to what is it that you want from a property management company?
Okay. All righty. We still have a lot of questions about like, what is the average price? Is there like a good resource for people to go to figure out how much the average price would be for an ADU, or is that just hard to?
I mean, I showed you Symbiom. Again, it's not perfect, but I think that's a starting point for the discussion. So if you're thinking, a 500 square foot ADU is going to cost you 20 grand and the site's saying it's way, way more, then your expectations and reality are way different. So you need to realign your expectations. I'm trying to think of what the average per square foot now is probably at least 450 to 500 a square foot today to build brand new ground up construction. But again, every ADU is different. Every site is different. So whatever the dollar per square foot is, that's just for the construction. That doesn't consider the site work. That doesn't consider your investment in an architect, an engineer, submitting the plans for permitting. There's fees along with that. So I like to use this formula. It's called the 20 to 29% rule. So when somebody asks me, when I ask them, because on our call, I'm going to ask you, so what is your planned investment in this project? You're going to give me a number. Just for easy math, I'm just using 100,000 for easy math. No projects cost 100,000 right now. Just easy math. My next question to you is going to be, is that all in? Or is that just for construction? Now, if you say that's all in, then I'm going to have to back into how much of that budget can be for your investment into the project before you start construction. That's called soft costs. So again, that is an architect, designer, engineer, surveyor, the energy calculations that were mentioned, a site, we talked about survey, a site plan, permitting, okay? We have to set that aside. And then I always want my clients to set aside a contingency, because again, no matter how well you plan a project, things will not go according to plan for whatever reason. So I'll give you an example. So we recently finished some ADU in Culver City, and because of the supply chain issues, some of the finished materials that the client wanted were not available. So we had to get something else. So what was originally budgeted was actually a lower price than what she ended up spending. But because we had this contingency budget, she wasn't anxious about it because we had already prepared her to set aside a certain amount of money for contingency. So when I think about the 20 to 29% rule, so for every $100,000 of what your budget is for construction only, that's labor and materials, the building materials plus the finishes, the things that people like to see, like the tile and the cabinets and the faucets, all that. So for every $100,000 that you spend on that, you should set aside 20 to 29%. This is being very conservative. I do it as a high number because people would rather come down, they'd rather go up. It's all about managing expectations. So you want to set aside 20 to 29%, or sorry, add 20 to 29% to that for your budget of what you're going to invest in your project before you start construction, and having a contingency.
Thank you for that breakdown. I know a few of you all mentioned in the Q&A that the chat is disabled. I've put the links in the chat again. I hope that you all are able to see them now that Monica has provided. Our next question is, how much communication with clients are during your stay?
Actually, I always try to meet the client. It's important to establish communication, a level of trust. You feel more comfortable with them, they feel more comfortable with you. Unless they have questions or concern, I usually don't bother them during their entire stay. I do check in every couple days, however, and ask them, how are they doing? Do they have any questions or concerns, or do they need any assistance? And usually the answer is no, because the place is fully equipped. I make sure they have everything they need. I also offer a guidebook. In most platforms, there's a place you can offer a guidebook, which is basically things to do, or local eateries and things in your neighborhood. What if Uber and, what are the other Lyft and those things that are available, parking. So I try to make it so that there aren't any questions, so that they're comfortable. But yes, I do. I meet them initially, and then I check on them. There's a messaging system through every app so that they don't actually have your contact information. They go to the messaging system and it forwards the information to you. So there's a level of security there as well. And then you answer back through the messaging system. And that is typically how I communicate once I meet them initially. And if I'm not there to meet them, my husband is. We make sure that they know how to enter the space. There, we have a security gate with a keypad, and then there's a keypad on the door, and then there's a, what do you call it, where you keep the key, not a padlock, but a lockbox that we attach near, just in case the keypad malfunctions, they have a backup. But I try to make it so they're, that they are comfortable and have that. But if they have questions, I'm available. They message me and I check on them periodically. But I'm not banging on the door every day. How you doing? How you doing? No, they want their privacy, and if all goes well, they get it.
Nice, nice. All righty. Next question is, what do you think about ADU companies like Adobo?
So Adobo does prefabricated, it's my understanding. So there are advantages to prefab from the standpoint that it would typically, you could get it done more quickly. Many people think about prefab units, whether it's built in a factory or whether the compartment or the components are built in a factory and it's put together on site. So when they start shopping around, here's a key thing that they don't think about. So when you're given a price, it's typically the price for the unit itself. But you also have to consider the price of getting the site ready for that prefab unit. So there's going to be a cost involved with that. Of course, the permitting involved with that. But I'm all for whether it's stick built or prefab, however, whatever you feel works for you.
All righty, all righty. Well, thank you, ladies, for all of your wealth of information. I know we can't see each other, so let's give some virtual hands, everyone. Round of applause to the ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Can I add one more thing?
Mhm.
Everyone, give everybody a homework assignment. Go, it's a great binge watch. Watch Stay Here on Netflix. It's for the Airbnb, so for those that are really interested in doing short-term rentals, but it applies if you're going to do a long-term rental. What I like about the program, it shows the value of design for you to maximize your income. Because
That's true.
how
I've
something
seen that
looks
program. That's very-
matters. So again, it's called Stay Here on Netflix. Stay Here on Netflix. And then another plug, I'm teaching an ADU class with West LA College a week from Saturday on the 13th of August online. And I think Jacinda has the link.
Yes, let me try that. Hope everyone is able to see this. Okay. All righty. Well, thank you again, ladies, for your wonderful presentations. And I will now turn over to Mr. Reverend Gerald.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us this evening. I want to thank you, Monica and Rosalind, for that great information that was shared. Before I turn it over to the president of the Los Angeles Urban League, Michael Lawson, I want to encourage everybody who's on the call with us tonight to encourage all your family and friends to register for our upcoming workshops. Next Thursday, Expanding Black Commerce with E-commerce, which is going to be a great success story of these two young moguls who are just killing it in e-commerce. And you can start an e-commerce business and they don't know what you look like, who it is, or whatever. And you don't need a brick and mortar to make a whole lot of money doing it. And then we're going to hear from a gentleman named John Fleming, who wrote a book called The Ultimate Gig, and he's going to talk about the gig economy. And we're going to close it out with Daryl Brown talking about retirement for personal success. So please encourage your friends and family to log on to laul.org/BWAARP and tell everybody about BWARP, because we're here to make sure that we can retain wealth in our community so we can pass it down to our heirs. Now I want to welcome the man that makes all of this possible, Michael Lawson, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Urban League.
Thank you, Reverend Gerald. This was fantastic. This was absolutely fantastic. So informative. You have to watch this thing over and over again. There was so much information. So good evening. My name is Michael Lawson. I am the president and CEO of the Los Angeles Urban League. And on behalf of the Los Angeles Urban League and Parkside Economic Development Corporation, I thank you for participating in tonight's Black Wealth Attainment and Retention Program. We hope that tonight's presentations were of much benefit to each of you. I know they were of much benefit to me. So thank you, Monica Higgins and Rosalind Gale, for generously sharing your knowledge of ADUs and other available, it went beyond ADUs. It went so far beyond ADUs that the informative information here was just tremendous. I also want to thank Gerald Smith again, chairman of Parkside Economic Development Corporation, without whom this program would not exist. I also want to thank Brian Williams, the chief operating officer of the Los Angeles Urban League, for his leadership in presenting BWARP as well. as we finally, this is what we finally call this webinar series. And I want to thank you for that. Jacinda Morton, for your continued support in producing BWARP. You are always on point. We thank you so very, very much. We also hope that the information that the presenters shared this evening will contribute to your success to build generational wealth for your families. We have a mission of amassing $2 billion of net worth over the next 10 years for our community in Los Angeles County. You think that's a big number? We have to remember that the Greenwood, the division of Tulsa, Oklahoma, that was destroyed in 1921, was known as Black Wall Street for a reason, because it was, if it were still there, that would have been one of the richest cities in this country. And I can honestly say that that target is a real target because our forefathers have done it already. And we are going to repeat that. We hope that you will join us in this noble quest. Please continue to check out our website, laul.org, for information on the work we're producing. And again, thank you for attending tonight's BWARP webinar. Good night.
Hi, everyone.
Night, everyone.